I'm back. I'm bald. Let's talk about books. You may have noticed I'm in a different place. I have moved since the last time I made a video. This is my little library situation. My hair is gone. Yes, hold your applause. Thank you. I know. I'm embracing egg life. It's great. Thank you for asking. I figure it's time to talk about books again. A whole year has passed and I wanted to make a video about what I read last year. Even though it's almost March as I film this. Actually, that's a lie. It's still, I would say still mid-February. So anyway, I figured we could talk about what I read and talk about some opinions. I have a few queued up that I also didn't finish that I thought it could be fun to talk about. So let's get into it. I read 14 books last year. Less than a lot of other people who talk about books, but probably a lot more than the average person. So I'm happy with that. My goal was to do 10, preferably 15 plus. Some of these we talked about last year in more detail, so I'll just kind of quickly talk about them. First up, Calypso. I read that last January. That's by David Sedaris. It's one of his comedy essay books. It was fine. The most memorable part about it for me was the fact that he bought like a beach house and named it the C section, SEA. And I just think that's really funny. Other than that, it was a little bit forgettable to me. All right, let's move on. I gave that a 3.75. Then we had a very strong period of time with a lot of really amazing books, which I did make a video about. So the first in the string of very good books was called Suffrage Song. And I have it here. There she is. Look at her. I love her. This was a really amazing book. I would like to reread it maybe this year again. It's just amazing graphic novel all about the women's suffrage movement in the United States. It's all different media, like there's watercolor and there's pencil and there's digital, and talks about the hunger strikes. It talks about various characters who really existed. And also, I said this in the last video, but they did a really great job kind of discussing the flaws of these people and not just kind of the child's book version of like what each person did. They really went into detail about certain people who were very influential, but then also very problematic, and like how both of those things played a part in the movement. So I really can't recommend it enough. I want to like give this as a gift to every person in my life. Just like look at the drawings. Are you kidding? How long did that take the author to draw? I happen to know that the author, which is Caitlin Cass, is working on another really cool project that I am very excited to read. So I will be following this author because I want to know what else. Look at that. Even look at the back. Are you kidding? That's so cool. That's so cool to me. Anyway, that got a 5-star. That really deserved a 5-star. If you want more detail about it, you can go to my second to last video. Next up, we got Not in Love by Hazelwood. You know that I love Hazelwood. You know that I did not like this cover. I thought it was really bad. Not to be blunt, but I feel like that's a really bad cover, especially compared to the other really cute ones. But I really loved what was in it. This was a science-y romance. So it's two scientists, and basically one of them is performing a hostile takeover of the company that she works for. And I just really liked the dynamic they had. And I remember feeling like it really had that special sparkle that we all hope for in a book. So loved it. Okay, moving on. That book also got a 5-star from me. This was just a string of 5 stars. It was a very good reading spring last year. So the next book was Chouette by Oshetsky. To be honest with you, this really blew me away. I mean, I read this in the last video, so I don't want to go into too much detail because you can just hear it there. But this is the first line in the book. I dream I'm making tender love with an owl. The next morning, I see talon marks across my chest that trace the path of my owl lover's embrace. 2 weeks later, I learn that I'm pregnant. You may wonder, how could such a thing come to pass between woman and owl? I too am astounded because my owl lover was a woman. So it's just this amazing, I mean, it reads almost like poetry. It's a pretty thin book, like it's, all things considered, like it's not a long book, but there's so much in there that you could just be like, just like chewing it until But it's funny, for how chewy it was, it didn't take me very long to read because I was just absolutely, like, I was locked in on this book. And in fact, I was traveling. And you know it's a good book when, like, the travels start to feel like they're in the way of you and your book. And you're, like, hoping to be, like, in a line at the airport so you can read. So you're hoping your flight gets delayed so you can just, like, read for a little longer. It's really beautiful. And actually, this author has since written another book. Let me get it. So this author has since written another book, and it's called Poor Dear. And it's another sort of like surrealist, fantastical book. And I'm really excited to read this because I feel like it's going to be the same sort of vibe as the other one. Let me read you the back. Margaret Murphy is a weaver of fantastic tales, growing up in a world where the truth is too much for one little girl to endure. Her first memory is of the day her friend Agnes died. No one blames Margaret, not in so many words. Left alone to make sense of tragedy, Margaret wills herself to forget these unbearable memories, replacing them with imagined stories full of faith and magic that always end happily. Enter Poor Dear, a strange and formidable creature who winds her way uninvited into Margaret's made-up tales. Poor Dear will not rest until Margaret faces the truth about her past and atones for her role in Agnes's death. Heart-rending, hopeful, and boldly imagined, Poor Dear explores the journey toward understanding the children we once were and the stories we tell ourselves to make sense of life's most difficult moments. I know a little bit more about what happens in this book from the bookseller, which I won't reveal in here because it's not on the back and I don't want to, I haven't read it yet, so I don't know what's too bad of a spoiler. But I was in a bookstore talking with the bookseller about Chouette, and they were like, well, have you read the next one? And I was like, what do you mean? Give it to me right now. And when they brought it up, I had realized that I had seen it a few times and not really been gripped by that premise on the back. And they told me a little bit about what it's about. And I put down my credit card immediately. I was like, well, that's for me. So haven't read it yet, but this is on the soon list, on the this year list. That also got 5 stars. You can hear all about my deep opinions and some excerpts in the past video, the one that wasn't a vlog. Then I read 50 Ways to Protect Bookstores. That was fine. It's basically a list. I ended up giving that away to a book swap that I hosted. So I hope whoever took that one read it and enjoyed it. Next up, which I, according to my diary, finished this week last year, was Piranesi. This book was so good. Seriously, this book was so good. It's basically a retelling of the story of the Labyrinth, but it, to me, really had vibes of The Magician's Nephew. If you've ever read that book, that's the first book in the Chronicles of Narnia series. And it gave me the feeling I had when I read that, but in more of an adult way. It's about this guy who basically lives in this never-ending manor, this giant house. I mean, picture the labyrinth, right? So just never-ending house with all these halls and halls and halls and halls, and each one's different. And he has learned his way around. He has a really great memory. He makes notes. He takes notes about everything. He's a very scientific mind. And the way that these rooms are described and the tastiness of the verbiage and the vocabulary is just you're in it, you're with him. You are also in this house. And it's basically a story about how he comes to realize what's going on. He goes from being sort of happy in his life in this house to discovering that all may not be as it seems and that maybe this isn't what he thought, and how he comes to those conclusions. It's a mystery unfolding, but you're with him in the mystery, and he's such a reliable narrator, and it's really built up how reliable a narrator he is. He's always taking notes about everything, and he has the date, and he's just impeccably detailed. And then you come to find out that he's missing a lot of information, so you're well, how reliable are you really? And you're kind of finding out as he does. And wow, I mean, again, it's not that long a book, and I was just it's just so good. I could not shut up about this book when I was reading it. And then when I finished it, I went to work and I was you won't believe what happened. So highly recommend. It's so annoying when a book that gets hyped up so much is actually as good as the hype. I mean, it's good because you read it and you want it to be good, but it's such an eye roll. You're yeah, okay, I get it. It's a good book. It's on every front shelf at every bookstore for years. You're okay, heard. I got it. But then you read it and you're well, they were right. What are you gonna do? So that got 5 stars from me. Well deserved, well earned. I wonder what else she has written. I haven't looked into it, but now I feel like I might want to because I really like this one. Okay, moving on. I'm trying to go quickly because these are ones that I discussed last year. Okay, so then we had a vlog that I posted, which was this book. This was a reread, The Fall of Bradley Reed. It's a romance. It was not as good on my second time through, but sometimes it's just for the funsies, you know? It's like, literally, I bought it like direct off TikTok. There's like typos in it. I mean, it's essentially a fanfic. But I really enjoyed it the first time. I enjoyed it the second time. It's just kind of a fun read. It's not exactly realistic, but like a romance novel is, you know? Like, basically, this woman has an FBI agent like assigned to her case, looking out for her to make sure she doesn't do anything stupid to get herself in trouble, or else it'll mess things up for him. And then in order to stop her from doing something stupid, he ends up having to intervene. And then because he intervenes, they end up meeting. And then one thing leads to another. And you can guess what happens from there. He's very like dark and mysterious, kind of brooding, protective FBI guy. So it literally says on here, it's a John Tucker Must Die inspired, grumpy sunshine, fake dating, good girl rom-com. So really, you don't need me to say anything else. That's what it is. But it was very enjoyable. I gave that a 4.5 just because I had a good time. Let's move on to my favorite book of the year, shall we? This book I have recommended to so many people, and several of them have read it. And every single person who I recommended it to has loved it. So let's talk about one that I never made a video about, but should have. A Strange and Stubborn Endurance by Meadows. This book, it's so good. 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 Oh my God. Okay, where to begin? I bought this book with my friend in New York, and we went to the Non-Binarian, which is a non-binary and queer bookstore. And I'll put in some footage here of us walking around and shopping there. It was so lovely. It's a small bookstore, but everything in there you know is going to be a queer story, and so many non-binary tales, and we just had the best time like looking around. And they have this cool wall of Post-its where it was sort of like a pay it forward thing where people could, let's say you walk in and you love the mission, but you don't really want a book that day. You could basically make a gift card for someone else out of a Post-it. And so you would just pay them like normal and then put a Post-it on the wall. So they had a whole wall behind the register that was like, you know, $20 for a doll, $5 for someone just figuring it out, like $15 from your lesbian aunties who live in North Carolina. Like all these cute things. And they said, like, no questions asked. Like, if you want one, take one. And it wasn't about how much money you make or, you know, what is your identity? Are you queer or not? It was just like, if you could use some help purchasing your books, grab one off the wall. Let's talk about this book, though. This book is a gay for bi, male love story that involves so much yearning and so much political intrigue. I was so hooked on this book, I couldn't put it down. There's these neighboring kingdoms, okay? 2 kingdoms. There's one guy from one kingdom who's like a high lord, let's say. Like he's in the aristocracy, but he's not a royal. And he's the youngest son of this guy who's, you know, a lord. So he is called home by his father, goes home, and he is gay. His father does not know that he is gay. And he goes home and his father takes him into his office and is basically like, hey, I'm going to marry you off to the, essentially like a princess of the neighboring kingdom, this kingdom. And obviously that is not something he wants to do. But at this point, it's sort of like, what are you going to do? So in the ensuing couple days, stuff goes down and it comes out that he is gay. And his dad is not on board with that. His dad is a bigot. So he gets completely disowned. His father's like, never come back here. You are no longer my son, etc. Now, he has been promised to the princess of the neighboring kingdom. And the envoy from that kingdom is there to collect him. Like at this point, the envoy is present. And so when this all comes out and the envoy also finds out, the envoy's like, well, are you only interested in men? And he's like, yeah. And the envoy's like, well, technically all this paperwork is you're not required to marry the princess. You are required to marry a royal of eligible age who is like on the marriage market. And there happen to be two. It's not just her. We were just assuming that you'd want to marry a woman, but like the prince is also available and he likes men too. So you don't even have to change the paperwork. Like, you could just come with me. And when we get there, we'll just tell them it's actually the other guy you're marrying. And at this point, he's disowned. So he's like, I guess. Like, so he's like, what am I going to do? Like, at this point, my home is not a home. Like, I guess I'm going and go find out. So he gets to the other kingdom, and it turns out to be way cooler than his home, way more progressive, way more fun. He's like suddenly in this whole new environment with these people who are like way more progressive and cool and fun. And oh my God, it's not a spoiler to say that they do get married like pretty immediately. Like, that's kind of the beginning of the book. But I have never read a book where two people who are already together are pining this hard for each other. It's like they're like already married and somehow they're like, oh, but I can't. But like, does he even like me? Like, what if? Like, what if? That's like, what are you talking about? You're literally married. The amount of pining in this book is truly unparalleled. I don't know if I've ever seen a more yearnful book where the people were already technically together. Other things I love about this book, the vocabulary. I am known for having a great vocabulary. I know a lot of words. And I was literally out here with my like dictionary app, like looking up words like every other page, which I love. I feel like I was learning. Other things I loved, the amount of representation in this book was so good and so thoughtful and so integrated into the world of the story. It wasn't like, oh yeah, there's a non-binary character, by the way, in the B plot. Not to say that I don't still love seeing that, but non-binariness is a huge player in this story and in this world. The country that he moves to, non-binariness is known and accepted. There's a bunch of non-binary characters, which actually, like, I don't know who's watching this video, right? This is on the internet. Like, maybe you don't know any non-binary people, or you don't think you do, or you don't know that you do, or you do, but those people maybe aren't along the journey far enough to like verbally identify that way, but that's how they feel. My life, there's a lot of non-binary people in my life. Like, I live a very beautiful life full of wonderful queer humans, and it wouldn't be accurate to like read a book. When I read a book and there's like one non-binary character, that's not really like, you know, they talk about windows and mirrors, like mirrors when you read a book, like to be reflected back at you, you want to read about something that you relate to, and then windows are books where like you're learning about something else. Like, that wouldn't be an accurate mirror to me to read a book where there's like one non-binary character, or certainly no books where there's no non-binary characters. So to read this book and for the first time feel like it was like an integrated part of the story that had bearing on the plot and was explained and talked about, and because he's new to this country, you get the benefit of people like explaining stuff to him, which then you are learning as the reader. So that was really cool. There's also trans representation, which was, I thought, really thoughtful and interesting, and the way that they kind of explain it. There's lesbian representation. There's obviously bi and gay representation. There's also disability representation, and that is also a major part of the plot. So one of the main characters is mute, and that's how they refer to him in the book. So they're signing. Which is funny to me that that's not in more books, because unlike let's say a TV show where if you had a character who was signing, like, they would reasonably have to learn to sign their lines at least. But in a book, you could literally be like, blah, 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 blah. He signed. Like, you don't even have to learn how to sign in order to have a character who signs. So I'm like, why is that not more prevalent in books? I don't know. But that is such a cool and interesting part of the story, and so integral to the story. You couldn't cut out any of these representation, like letters of the LGBT, or, you know, whatever. Like, none of them could be cut out of the story really and have it still make sense. And so I really loved that. I really found that enjoyable and enriching to the story. I felt like it was a more thoughtful book because of that, and more accurate to how life really is. Like, I don't know. Is your life really only filled with like abled, white, upper middle class people who are straight? And like, that's not my experience. So it's just cool to read about that. So this book got a hefty 5 stars from me. If I didn't put that, oh my God, I put 4.75. Scrap that. It was 5. It's all I think about. And thankfully there was a sequel. So actually right around the time that I finished the book, I went back to New York to help my friend with something who lives there. And so I made a quick stop back to the non-binary to grab the sequel, which is All the Hidden Paths, which I haven't finished. I got 2/3 of the way through and I was really enjoying it, but I came to a point where a lot of people were getting introduced. There was a lot of like social interaction with lots of different characters. And my life was getting very lifey at the same time, and I got kind of distracted. And then what happened was like, I forgot who was who, and I'm gonna have to go back now. I put it down for too long and I'm gonna have to go back, but I was enjoying it. The other thing that both of these had in common, and if we're just talking about this, I really liked that it was a fantasy that had a lot of political intrigue, but it wasn't all about war. Like, I get so bored. I was just rewatching Game of Thrones and I got to season 5 and I'm like, all these like political plots and other pieces of the story were started fading to the background, and it just started being like basically the war. And I just don't find that as compelling. I was getting bored, and not for nothing, but like Melisandre and Stannis, boring. Zombies, boring. I'm like, that's to each their own, but it wasn't for me. But this was like, I mean, it's a thick book and it was so good. And I never felt that an element of warfare was missing. I was really happy learning it. In fact, it actually felt more accurate to the gays in my life who are really like, yeah, like little gossips, you know? Like my friends are like all about the intrigue and the drama, and they're not necessarily like planning a war in the boardroom. Like I loved that it revolved a little more around the social element of royalty and the politicking that happens at parties and how you get things done, sort of the room where it happens of it all. So I just can't recommend enough. The only thing I guess I would say is that the book itself, like a couple of the pages are falling out, which like I've been treating it pretty well. So maybe, I don't know what happened there, but I haven't had that happen in, I don't know, maybe ever, unless I like destroyed the book myself. So maybe I just got a lemon, but I hope that like multiple of the other books of this are not having pages fall out. But every single person I've lent this to or recommended it to loved it. So you should love it and also read it. Okay? Promise? Okay. I wonder what I said to make it a 4.75. Here's my review. I loved it. Loved the ease of the diversity and how seamlessly the characters and especially Kemi concept was woven into the world building. Kemi is what they call the non-binary people in this world. Kemi. Great pacing, great writing, great vocab, queer and adorable, great politics that were complicated enough to be interesting, but well explained enough to be understood. Cool titling concept. Excited to read the sequel. What was my hang up with giving it 5 stars? I don't know, but clearly past me had some problem. Moving on, next book was The Pairing by Casey McQuiston. I really loved Red, White, and Royal Blue when I read it. When that came out, that was like the perfect time in my life for that to come out, and I loved that book. The Pairing, when I started it, I think I started it in 2024, was really enjoying it, put it down, was living life, and then went back to it in 2025 and just started it over. And I felt that the second time through, I was not enjoying it as much as the first time. It is still funny. It's still Casey McQuiston. It was a fun story. It was kind of forgettable. Like if you had asked me to make this video today and I couldn't have looked at my notes, I would have remembered this book, the 4-5 stars that I read in the beginning of the year, and like some recent ones. Pairing would have gotten totally lost. Let's see what I said. Beautiful writing, funny, juicy, and delicious. Highly enjoyable. If I'm telling you it's highly enjoyable, but I'm not jumping up and down, it wasn't that highly enjoyable. It was good. The Pairing is about this couple that were together basically since childhood, early teenhood. Like they've been friends forever. They got together around college age. They were together for like 5-6 years or something. Then they broke up because of a big fight. And then they had like 5 years to themselves. The big fight happened in an airport where they were on their way to this trip they had booked together. And basically 5 years later, it was going to expire for them to be able to reschedule it. So both of them separately on their own were like, well, we already paid for this. I might as well take it before it expires. And they both ended up signing up for the same trip at the same time. And it's a trip it's like a wine and food pairing trip across Europe. So the other people on this trip, like people go with a spouse or, you know, a friend. And so everyone on the trip essentially is partnered except for them. And so then they end up sitting together and having to reconcile and I guess like learn about like what each other has been doing for the last 5 years and how it's really a lot about how they've grown in the time that they weren't together and also how they didn't grow and like what character traits that they're still working on and how maybe they can they get back together and work on it together? Can they learn to love each other and from a new perspective as more adults who've now lived their own lives separately? So it was a cool concept, and I did really love the beauty of the description of like the flavors of the cheeses and the peaches and the wines and there's definitely a very funny element of the tour guide being like a really flirty, very hot person. And so they basically have like a competition of who can, because it's buy for buy. So they were like, they're like, who can sleep with the most people on this trip? And like the grand prize is if you can get like the tour guide to sleep with you. So it was fun. It was a fun book. I wouldn't say it was like in a top anything for me. All right, let's move on. I finally read Astrid Parker Doesn't Fail. I've already read the other books in this series. This is by Ashley Herring Blake. And it's like a 3-first series. I really like this one. The thing that I thought was really crazy was that the cover, one of the characters really looks like me. Like the girl, she's like leaning on the post. She's got overalls, which I wear overalls a lot in the summer. And then she has like red lipstick, which I'm pretty known for wearing most of the time. And then she had my same exact haircut and she was tall. And I was like, is this play about us? I was like, that's me on the cover of this. Basically, this one is about, it's sort of an enemies to lovers situation. This one woman is an interior designer and she is tasked with fixing up this old house and it's all going to be filmed for like a renovation TV show. And she has an interaction with a stranger on the morning of the first day and kind of yells at the stranger. And then who's the stranger? Of course, it's the person she needs to work with, the contractor who's going to be building this whole thing. So in front of the cameras, essentially, they're beginning to have feelings, etc. I thought it was really cute. That's what I said. Very cute, enjoyable, light. Liked the diversity. Thought it was a bit simple regarding her coming to terms with her newly found bisexuality in the space of like 4 sentences. But hey, maybe she was ready, lol. 3.25 stars. Yeah, I guess now that I read that. Yeah, there was a point where she starts to realize that she's bisexual, but it was like a pretty quick turnaround from like, no, that could never happen to being like, well, I'm bi. That wasn't my experience, but everyone's different. The next book that I read, this was an audiobook, was Eleanor, Oliphant is Completely Fine. That is a book that I think we've all seen everywhere for a decade. So I just looked back at my review of it to try to remember, because in my head I'm like, I kind of forgot I even read this. I have like almost no memories about this book except for that the main character is certainly autistic. And I was like, maybe if I go back to my review, it'll say what I was thinking. And literally my review says, very good book, will remember. Oh, great. Great. Thanks, past me. I can't tell you much, guys. I kind of forget. This woman is autistic and dealing with grief and hardship. Y'all, read the back of the book. That thing's been in bookstores forever. I can't particularly recommend it because I barely remembered that I even read it, which to me means it wasn't that great, huh? Like, I guess I had a great time reading it. And also I finished it. There's a lot of books I did not finish this year that were just bad. So I finished it and I gave it a 4.0. So I'm going to move on because I'm boring myself talking about it. All right. Now we're getting into the more recent ones. This one, Total Left Turn, Having People Over by Chelsea Fagan. I have been a big fan of Chelsea Fagan for probably a decade. Been watching her since college. Really love her books. Well, sorry. Really love her finance channel, The Financial Diet, which is on YouTube. She is really funny and I just think she's a fun personality. And also I've met her in person and she's really nice. She does a lot for her community. She's an activist. Like, she's always phone banking. She's always raising money for things that I really believe that we could all be doing more of that. And she has great financial advice. So if you need any financial advice, definitely go to The Financial Diet. They've really helped me get my life together. But she's also, on the other side, a writer. She's written a couple novels. One of them I couldn't really get through. Not to say it wasn't good, but I don't know that it was totally for me. The second one I have not read, but I think I actually might like that one more, but I just haven't read it. But I have read, and I purchased this myself, Having People Over. This is her hosting guide. So she's also sort of a Martha Stewart figure in that she's like, or maybe more Ina Garten, I guess. She's always making posts about hosting at her home and how you can host on any budget and doesn't require as much as you think. And you can do it in a small space. And so she makes hosting content as well. And this book was really, the only downside is that because I have followed her for so long and I am like a big fan, so I follow her Instagram and I'm like seeing all these things. Some of the things in the book I already had seen from her, because when you're that big of a fan, you tend to like already know what they're gonna say. However, I did really like it still. There's these beautiful photos from her apartment in New York, the Good Guest Matrix. So there's a lot of good illustrations. It did not take long to read it. It has some advice on like different things you could serve, how to be a great guest. She has a recipe for canned fish with bean dip, or sorry, tinned fish and white bean dip. I know we've sort of rebranded canned fish into tinned fish. Just like good drink ideas. I just think it's a really nice gift. Like for me, I don't think I got the max enjoyment from it because I'm already a fan of hers, but I think it's an amazing gift for someone who doesn't know who she is. I think this could be a really good white elephant gift, or a really good Secret Santa thing, or just like for a friend. Or if you have someone in your life who like just moved out and is like beginning their life in their first apartment or something, I feel like it's a very digestible, and the font's pretty big. Like it's not that long a book. I don't know. It's not like that dense. I feel like this could be a good present for someone in your life. And honestly, I read it myself. So maybe now that I've read it, maybe I'll give it away. I liked it. I gave that a 5-star. All right. There were 2 other books that I read in the year 2025. Second last one was The Wedding People. This is another one that I keep seeing everywhere, and I'm like, okay, we get it. But this was an audiobook. Sometimes I'm just like in the mood to read an audiobook, and I just go on Libby and see what's available, and this happened to be available and had high ratings, and I said, okay, we'll give it a chance today. Basically, it's about this woman who goes to this hotel, and the entire hotel is booked for a wedding, and she is the only person, due to a mistake, she is the only person in the hotel not there for the wedding. And all these people are there who all know each other for this wedding. And she ends up running into the bride on like the first night, and they have a very frank conversation. And essentially this bride starts talking to her almost like therapist, being that she's the only person in the hotel that doesn't know her. So she's able to like reveal and confess a lot of things that she wishes she could talk to the people in her life about. And then the main character is like kind of in this weird position of like, well, what am I going to do now? Because I'm in this hotel with all these people and this bride won't leave me alone. And like, it was pretty good. I gave it a 4. I enjoyed it. I liked that it was a different age bracket from what I normally read. Like, you know, I normally read a lot of like young rom-coms. So it was cool that this was more of like a middle-aged story. There's sort of a theme around divorce and blending families and sort of the modern family sense of like, you know, stepchildren or step-siblings or, you know, deaths in the family. It's not like a simple straight line to love. I liked that there weren't that many characters. Sometimes it's overwhelming for me when there's like a million characters to remember. But I felt like the characters that there were pretty well fleshed out, and it was well written. So yeah, I liked it. The last one was another 5-star. I don't have it because I listened to it, but I have seen this one in bookstores all the time. It's called All Fours by Miranda July. Oh my God. This book is gonna like live on in my consciousness. I mean, this was another middle-aged story where this woman essentially plans to go on a cross-country road trip. She's never been, and she's trying to prove something about herself, that she's not a person who just stays in one place. She's doing things. She's going on adventures, and she plans out an entire 2-week road trip, and she drives like 45 minutes away from her home where she has a child and a husband. And she makes a pit stop and essentially ends up staying at a motel in that town, like half an hour from where she lives, for the entire 2 weeks. and she lies to everyone. She tells everyone she's on this road trip, and she basically stays in this little suburb so close to her home. It's like spitting distance. And it is almost the whole plot of the book is internal. It's her thought process on everything. And I loved it because you don't normally get that when you're reading. You hear about what's happening, but I mean, it is so detailed. The minutia of like, well, I turned the corner down on the bed and here's why, my thought process behind that. And like, I decided to do that, and it's not boring. The way I just said that made it sound really boring, but it's how a real person thinks, because everyone everywhere has a reason for doing everything. Like maybe you don't shut the door all the way. Why? Because your cat needs to come in and out. Or maybe you park the car a certain way to a stranger. That looks like a weirdo thing to do, but for you, it's like because there's a crack in the pavement there, and if you go over that crack, then you might get a shard in your tire. And if you get a shard in your tire, like you have a thing about tire. Like every person has an internal story and a history that causes them to make all the choices that they make. And this book it's thick. This is a long book. But every minute thing about everything she decides and sort of her stream of consciousness is so fascinating. And like her entire sort of spiraling around perimenopause, and this main character was famous and is now sort of aging out of fame a little bit. And it's amazing how a book, I mean, it's very much lit fic, right? Like it's amazing how a book without too many events is so full and so much to digest in such a wonderful way. It's like an omakase. It's like the chef is like bringing you this and you're like, oh, thank you. And then they bring you the next thing and you're like, and by the end you're full, but like it was so full of twists and turns that you weren't expecting, but you're kind of just like, yes, ma'am. And like, you just start like eating. And my God, when the book ended, I was like, oh my God. So I can't recommend that enough. In fact, I kind of want to give it to my mom and be like, just read this. I loved that it was a different age bracket than myself. I love that she was living a very different life from myself. The writing was beautiful. And honestly, it's read by the author, the audiobook, and she's great. She has this very like deadpan effect to her voice that really works with the story. And I believe that like she is the main character. Like the way that it's read, I'm not separated between like, oh, well, that's the author reading it, you know? Like sometimes that's how I feel now about like Casey McQuiston books, where it's like, sometimes I'm drawn out of the story a little because I can hear so much of Casey's voice versus like the voice of the characters in the story. And so in this case, at least for the audio narration, like I believed that this voice was the voice of the main character. So that was a really cool book. I really liked that, and I gave it 5 stars. Yeah, it's a 10-hour and 13-minute audiobook. Like that's a long book. Oh my God, literally what I wrote, a wonder, no flaws, 5 stars. Has anyone ever heard me say those words? So that's every book that I read in 2025. I've read 2 more since then. But I also thought it could be fun to go through some of the ones I did not finish, just for some tea, just a little tea time, because there was quite a few and honestly strong reasons for not finishing them. So let's have a sip of our tea. And let's go. So DNF 2025. I was listening to The Dutch House on Libby. This is one that's, again, it's everywhere. Anne Patchett, is that her name? Girl, I could not get into this book. And I love lit fic. I love long, meandering stories about like not very much, where it's all about the characters and what they're thinking. But wow, I was not invested in what was going on. Like the story itself was boring. It wasn't that there wasn't enough happening or it wasn't well written. It just was like, this was a dumb plot. I got to 52%. So I definitely gave it the freaking college try. And at a certain point I was like, even if, like once you sort of understand the direction the book is going, or at least you think you do, you're like, well, I don't care about knowing more about that. So I'm gonna quit. This is what I wrote. Like the type of lit it is, but realized I didn't care about what happened to any of the characters, no matter what was going to happen. Also didn't love Tom Hanks as a narrator. Yeah, that was really wild. The Tom Hanks was the voice actor. Why? I didn't like that at all. That was distracting. I started the 5th season. I DNF'd after a few pages. I couldn't get into the audio. Maybe I need a physical book. I still I keep hearing about it and I keep seeing it and it keeps drawing me in, but then I start it and I'm like not intrigued, but maybe I just need to like force myself into it. I don't know. Let me know in the comments. Have you read it? Please like sell it to me somehow, because I'm interested in reading it, but then I actually tried it again with the audio and I think more than once I've tried to start it. So I'm like still interested. I want it to work for me. Okay. Funny Story by Emily Henry. I really like Emily Henry. I really loved Book Lovers. I liked People We Meet on Vacation. I really liked Beach Read. Beach Read and Book Lovers were by far my favorites. This was my notes. By the way, I got to 21%. So again, that's a fifth of the way through the book. Question mark, question mark, question mark, question mark. It's bad. Want to keep going for the little bit of humor the male main character brings. He sounds cute, but the dialogue is bad and slow, question mark. And I don't care about any of them, question mark. Why is it so bad? I would love to know what you think about that, because I ended up telling a friend and that friend was like, oh yeah, that book is bad. And I'm like, was anyone gonna tell me? Because I was out here so excited. I think I put it on hold on Libby. I was like, I can't wait to read this. I couldn't even tell you what it's about. It's rom-com premise. I think these two people both get cheated on, and the people that cheated both decide to live together. And so these two people that got cheated on are now kicked out of their home. So they decide to room together because they're suddenly both single and they know each other. And then I guess they fall in love, but I won't ever know because I'm not going to read it. Yeah. Okay. Maybe my most infuriating DNF of the year goes to The Kiss Curse. Now, here's the cover. If you've seen this, or if you're looking at it now, it looks like a very cute Halloween little rom-com. That's what I was hoping for when I picked it up. This book, the plot was so good. Like this plot in the hands of another author could have been so juicy and so delicious, and instead it was so bad. And I understand having kind of a gimmick book that lives in the airport where it's like in the mood for a little smooth Halloween read, get this, but like I was pissed. I was traveling. Normally I wouldn't even make it this far in a book, but I was at the airport, I was on the plane, I was like trying to give it the college try because again, the plot was cool. But it just was like getting worse and worse. The B plot was very stupid. I did not care about those characters at all. I feel like this exact same plot in the hands of someone else could have been so great, and instead it was just infuriating. This is what I wrote. So by the way, I DNF'd it 58 pages to the end. Like at that point, you could just finish the book. But I literally was like, I don't care. I don't care what happens. I'm like so annoyed at this book. And I had another book that I like wanted to read, and I was like waiting to finish this one. And given that I like to talk about the books that I finish, I was like, I want to at least finish it. But I was like, it's so bad. I only am living one life on this earth, and I'm like giving up on an hour of sleep to like read the rest of this book. Like, why? I'd rather sleep and have a better day tomorrow than like waste my life right now. So this is what I wrote. Almost put it down twice earlier in the book, but was at the airport and the plot was kind of intriguing. 2.75. That's very bad for me. Here's what I wrote. Drivel. This book has never heard of a metaphor. Spoon-fed. Plot was good and cute, just needed way better writing. With better writing, this could have been a 4. Sex scenes were so uncomfy due to the awful writing. Oh, I forgot about that. Ugh. If reading in October, maybe it could have been a 3 due to vibes. I was reading it in the winter. Only good for someone who is a major layman and has never read a book. Very light, a book version of a filler episode. Ouch. Well, damn. I don't even know if I want to get into what it was about. I'm not sure I remember. It was a witchy book. There was like a rival. There's like 2 rival witch stores in a town that's basically Salem. I don't know, y'all. It was stupid. Damn. Okay, The Gay Best Friend. I got in a book swap and I read one chapter, but I didn't like the writing or the premise. I can't tell you much about it, but I wasn't into it. Other one that I read a lot of in DNF, Cecilia by Caine. I heard a lot of cool things about this, and I bought it from a local bookstore in Chicago, and the writing was good. The person writing it obviously had skill, but it just wasn't for me. It was a little gory. Like, there was a lot of things about, like, piss and blood, and, like, I just wasn't into that. There's a lot of, like, flashbacks to childhood. It's a very short book. I mean, it's, like, that thin. It's, like, almost a novella. But it wasn't for me. But I did feel that it was for someone. Like, I felt that it was well written and cool, but just not my thing. So, unlike some of these where I'm like, that was just a bad book, like, this I feel like is a good book, but just not something I would want to read again. We talked about All the Hidden Paths. I'm gonna finish that. I'm probably gonna start it over. That's the sequel to A Strange and Stubborn Endurance. And then, oh, it's funny. I wrote down The Pairing. That's the one that I finished this past year. So I guess I DNF'd it and then I decided to try it again. But what I wrote originally was objectively beautifully written and funny, but the characters just didn't have that je ne sais quoi for me. Like, I didn't really relate, so shrug emoji. Huh, okay. Well, I did finish it and it was pretty good. So there you have it. Oh, I had one other thing I wanted to bring up. I think this was from the year before this past year. I think I read this in 2024. I didn't actually finish this book, but it had a huge impact on me, and I don't want to go another spell of time without at least mentioning it. Everybody's heard of this book, We Are the Weather. This is, if anyone knows me personally, you know that in 2025, I made a goal to eat 100 vegetarian meals for environmental reasons. And I did. I actually ate, I want to say 160 vegetarian meals. I really changed my habits so that meat was really not a focal point in my life. And whenever I cooked at home, I just made it vegetarian and sometimes vegan. And then if that's, you're eating those leftovers, it's like, okay, well, that's 6 meals. That's, you know, a vegetarian meal. And that was all because of this book. There was a decade of my life where I didn't eat beef for environmental reasons. That was like 13 to 23. And I now do eat beef, but it's not a zero-sum game. Like, I made an impact. For 10 years, I did not eat any beef. And in my family, they knew I didn't eat beef, so they were buying less beef. You know, like, I did make an impact. It's not like you have to do it for your whole life to make a difference. But since then, I haven't particularly changed my eating habits, but this book will really make you think a lot about the impact we have on this earth, and majorly so, one of the biggest impacts we have on this planet is what we're eating and the excess and gluttony of how much meat and dairy we are eating. So because it's nonfiction, sometimes with nonfiction, I find it hard to finish because once I've learned something and sort of gotten the point of the book, I'm like, well, do I need to finish it? I probably will finish this, but I just didn't want to, like, not mention it because this had a huge role in my life. And just because I didn't read the last, like, you know, 100 pages or whatever that is, it made a huge impact on me. That's what I read in 2025. I'm looking forward to 2026 reading. I just bought a few books the other day. I have a few on the upcoming list. I'm in the middle of one right now. I've already read 2. So can't wait to do another little update, but this has been very fun. Thanks for sitting with me and chatting books. Don't forget to do something good for the world today. Today I donated blood, and I volunteered the other day, and I'm bringing those up, not to brag, but to inspire you. People don't talk about the good deeds they do enough, and it makes it into this, like, weirdly secret and taboo thing. I don't think that should be the case. Go donate, go volunteer, go give of yourself, and I'll see you next time. Okay, bye.